I've had a few people ask if I would do a walk around tour of my Snatch. We're talking about the Land Rover behind me. It's a little overcast today. The sun's meant to come up, so I've got a few minutes and I just thought I'd show a few of the interesting points on this Land Rover, where I slept last night, where Jet slept last night, and just give you a feel of how comfortable a Snatch can be. We'll start with Jet's sleeping quarters. Fabricated this deck from polypropylene plastic. It simply replaces the seat base and gives me quite a large flat platform. I can use this when I go on my own to put a fridge on, which is great because then I have easy access to it from the driver's position. It makes up Jet's bed for the night. All I need to do is add her cushion and she's good for the night. Plenty big enough for Jet and she never complains. For me, Land Rover camping is all about the great outdoors. If you want the luxuries of showers and toilets and TVs and Wi-Fi, comfortable seats, all of these things, then, you know, motorhomes are for that. For me, Land Rovers are all about getting into the great outdoors. And so, as you can see, I do all my living outdoors. It was a little bit blowy last night. I put the awning out just because it gives a good feel. Wasn't expecting rain. And that's my cooking station. It's quite adequate. I've got my cutlery hung up there on a big steel sheet that was painted NATO green, fastened to the side of the vehicle, and that gives me a magnet mount to be able to put my shower, my cutlery, torches, lamps, and my traction boards. And then I just use one of these touch tables, suck that onto the side of the vehicle, anywhere I like really, but it's ideal just there underneath the cutlery. I've got my water tank right next to it, and I can hang a bag on the side for my waste, so all works nicely. I've got my toiletry bag hanging up there. Normally I wouldn't have it that close to where I'm cooking, but because I've got passenger door open, I thought it would do for now. So moving around the back, it's not so cold today, so I've left my jacket hanging up. So let's have a look in the back then. We'll take a gentle approach. The thing about a Snatch is, when it comes to getting in and out of it, compared with a regular Defender, you've got a nice big step and really tall entry and exit doors. They're not really much wider than a standard Defender door. However, the additional height and the ease of access afforded by that step is just outstanding. Now what I've done, interior design, is such that there are two sliding tabletops that come all the way back, and that allows me to have either a single bed or, in this case, a double bed. Anyway, let's focus on the sleeping arrangements. So, inflatable mattress. I use one of these Climate ones. They're pretty good because up the front end there's some memory foam. For me, a comfortable night's sleep is paramount. If I'm going to do all my living outdoors, along with some mountain biking or hiking, that sort of thing, I want to make sure I get a good night's sleep so that the following day I'm in a good shape, ready to have more fun. Eat, sleep, repeat, that's what they say. So that's what this is all about. Last night I slept with my head up at the top end there, close to the power bank. I've got the control on the side for the diesel heater, and therefore I could turn it up, turn it down, and because the wind dropped at around about midnight, it was starting to get a little bit warm, so I just dropped it down a click or two and it was perfect. I've also attached a steel plate to the top, and that allows me to mag mount lights and things onto the top. Nice easy access, so I can switch them on and off from outside and also from the inside as well, which is handy. On the side there you can see I've got a whole load of storage pouches, and the essentials I need for sleeping are at the front end, and the essentials that I need for everything else are towards the back. I've got myself a fire extinguisher just there as well, which I've never needed to use, but useful to have. So let's have a move around the front side. I'll have a quick look in the cab area. For me, in a Snatch Land Rover, being as basic as they are, having decent sat nav is quite important, something I can see easily. Now, these are 24 volt machines, therefore I need to step down to be able to take 240 volts from the power bank to be able to run 12 volt accessories like the diesel heater all night long. So just underneath the power bank there's a 12 volt transformer, so I can take 240 volt down to 12 volt. Within the military hardware that was installed there's also a transformer, so when I'm driving I can step down from 24 volt to 12. Beneath the transformer is my diesel heater, and there it is, stood vertically. The exhaust plumbed down to the floor. So a custom made stainless steel pipe that you can just about see the top of there, and the air intake, see if I can get this angle right, is down lower, and that's ducted from the outside of the vehicle. And the reason for that is because I can seal this up at night. There's a vent at the back there, and because I'm drawing clean, fresh, oxygenated air into the vehicle, I don't need to worry about the CO2 buildup. The heat then expands, takes the moisture from my breath, takes all the CO2 and pushes it out through the vent up in the ceiling, and that way I never get any condensation on the inside of the vehicle. My windows are not misted up when it's time to drive off in the morning. Real benefit there. Stick around for the second part of this video when we dive even deeper into this ex-Army Snatch Land Rover. I've come to a different location for the second part of this Snatch tour, in which I'm going to deal with some of the technical enhancements to the suspension and to the engine, as well as giving you a more detailed look at the interior fit out. So we're going to start at the front and work back. So we'll pop the bonnet and start in the engine bay. This 1993 Snatch Land Rover was fitted with a 300 TDI engine. The 300 TDI was the preferred choice of both the MOD and the squaddies. Its ability to run on dubious grades of diesel made it a far more reliable machine compared to the V8. The air conditioning system ran more efficiently on these as well, which was really important for the squaddies in Iraq and Afghanistan. These Snatch Land Rovers were refurbished back in 2005. And when I say refurbished, they were pretty much built up from the ground again with new engines, gearboxes, chassis, running gear. Pretty much the whole vehicle was as new. And then after 2005, these vehicles did very little work at all. So this one, when I acquired it, had 13,000 miles on the clock. So the engine runs like clockwork and the gearbox is nice and slick. I've taken the time to make a couple of small enhancements, including an Ali Sport intercooler, the slightly larger one, to improve the performance, altered the fuel pump to account for the better breathing, and fitted one of these Ali Sport breathers because the standard items can become a bit restrictive and cause damage to the engines. The only other thing under the engine bay that's worth noting is the replacement of the servo and the fitment of the larger loft unit. Applies more braking force to the standard discs and improves the stopping power greatly. The viscous fan has been replaced for an electric fan. Principal reason for that is because it gives better access to the belts, and considering these have a second alternator fitted, belt maintenance is something you don't want to have to be struggling with in the event of a failure. The snorkel top comes from a Toyota Land Cruiser. It's made of plastic so it will not rust like the original steel items, and it has this rain channel on it, which is quite good because the standard steel items have this ability to draw rain into them and saturate the filters. Not ideal really. I understand that the vortex system inside these Toyota ones is superior as well, so in a dusty environment I believe it's the one to have. Also, on the outside, I've fitted a nice light bar up on the top of there, quite in keeping. There were a couple of spare holes when I removed the SA-80 rifle mountings. Happened to be the perfect spacing for that rather nice 42-inch light bar. Up on the top there, I've got a CB whipper, as well as one of the standard Army aerials, which I've left there just for the look really, but the CB radio is quite a useful thing to have. Other subtle enhancements are the wing mirrors. The standard items are forever blowing and flapping around in the wind, and these are just that little bit larger and a little bit more stable. Give you a slightly better rear view when you're driving. You may have noticed that I've destroyed the camouflage look by fitting stainless steel bolts and not painting them. The benefit of stainless, of course, is that compared with the standard steel items that needed to be removed because they were all rusted and corroded, they'll still be good as the years go by. When I acquired the vehicle, the brakes were in shocking condition. They were really badly corroded, simply because the vehicle had been stood for so many years outdoors. So all the brake discs, calipers, pads were all replaced with new items. And in addition, while I was on that job, the suspension got a makeover as well, and heavier duty springs were fitted along with Old Man Emu shock absorbers, all rated for the heaviest weight available for Defenders. As you can see, underneath looks pretty good. The chassis and the underneath were very well undersealed when the vehicles were refurbished back in 2005, and then over the top of that it's had a good liner guard in. Whenever I've done an oil change, the old engine will get sprayed underneath and inside the chassis members as well. In terms of underbody protection, there's the standard steering guard, and I've fitted a diff guard on the front there, and at some point I'll get round to fitting one on the back as well. You can just see the front of the exhaust pipe there, and it's a demand stainless steel item with just a very small resonator, so it's pretty much a straight through exhaust system, and it sounds awesome without being loud and obnoxious. Suspension at the rear consists of 2 heavy duty springs, the heaviest you can get, and again damped with the use of Old Man Emu shocks, the double pin ones, again supplied by Gwyn Lewis 4x4. Highly recommend those. And looking underneath again, you can see just how well preserved it is, so for an old girl I've got no concerns about this one ever rusting through. With any modified Defender, pin to pin rear shocks are definitely the way to go. There's altogether less stress on the upper mounting points when you go with pin to pin. Much stronger arrangement, less likely to fail. Now, the suspension setup on this wasn't intended to give a lift, but it has effectively given me 40mm additional height on there. Any Defender that's had the benefit of a lift, it's well worth fitting modified trailing arms to account for the extra height. Otherwise you get an awful lot of stress on those mounting bushes at the front there. The springs, the shocks, the rear radius arms, all supplied by Gwyn Lewis 4x4. 30mm wheel spacers have been fitted all round. These have the benefit of widening the track and making the vehicle more stable in the bends. Both for me and Jet, one of the most important enhancements has been the replacement of the armoured glass in both the driver and passenger door, replaced with wolf door tops. This means we've got opening windows that are just slightly larger, and of course we've got the benefit of ventilation then. The use of 12 disc cutters to remove a 20mm piece of the armoured material from the doors all the way around. And then once we'd done that and the wolf door tops fitted in place, they were bonded in using seam sealer. So there's no mechanical fixing, but the benefit of, look at that, I've got opening windows in a Snatch Land Rover, and of course they're lockable as well. So without a doubt that was one of the best things that's been done. The fitting of the wolf door tops hasn't entirely removed the armoured capability, because I have a spare pair of Snatch doors with the armoured glass ready to go. So if ever we find ourselves in that SHTF situation, I can armour the vehicle back up again for those trips to Sainsbury's. Talking of SHTF, these woods are full of preppers, and somebody's gone and built themselves a shelter over there. Let's have a quick look at that. Yeah, built by an enthusiastic local prepper. If world events ever reached the point where it was necessary to come and bug out in one of these, I think I'd choose the Snatch Land Rover any day. Let's take a look inside. It doesn't look as though anyone's been in here for some time. But how about that? It's quite substantial. Oh, there's a fire pit as well, look at that. Yeah, I guess you could survive for a whole week on little squirrels and things. The benefits of the 20-litre water tank are quite obvious. It gives me drinking water for jet, water for washing face, hands, dishes, and also for showering. I decant some hot water into that, open up the portable shower. It's in the perfect position to provide hot water for me to shower. It's mounted with a lockable mounting, so it can be removed or it can be locked on there. It doesn't stick out any wider than the mirrors, so in theory, so long as I can get the mirrors through, then the tank should fit through. That being the case, doesn't explain why I've got some scuffs. When I went over a narrow bridge, I caught it. So I do tend to be a little bit cautious now when I go through a narrow space to make sure that I've got enough clearance so I don't clobber it. Very useful place for me to carry water because space inside the vehicle is quite limited. The swing away arm on the rear of the vehicle is a really useful attachment to have. With different accessories, it allows me to carry a range of different things, from mountain bikes, motorcycle, swing away tent that you may have seen me use in a couple of the videos, a storage box if I'm going to be away for longer and I need to carry some additional equipment, things like generator or snowboarding equipment. To gain access, it's really simple. To release, pull that second pin and out it comes, and then whatever the accessory is, whether it's the mountain bike, motorbike, storage box or swing away tent, it's out of the way, giving me clear access in and out the back of the vehicle. Really, really useful accessory. Fits into a standard 2-inch receiver that you can buy as an accessory to bolt on the back of your Defender, and locks back in place, nice and simple. Easy to remove if I didn't want it on there at all. I'll probably take it off come the winter time. Inside I've got 3 seating options to accommodate 2 adults in here. If the bed platform, as I mentioned earlier, makes up into a single or a double bed, if I'm not taking Jet in the front and I'm going with my good lady, we can have a double bed in the back, and if the weather's inclement, 2 of us can sit in the back and there's room to prepare a meal if we really needed to. I'm sat on the passenger side at the moment, and if I sit on the rear looking out, I've got a nice view of the outside, and that's quite nice. If I've got the rear awning in place, I can sit here, put a table in front of me, I can be really in the shelter out of the wind and the rain if I need to. I can also sit on the driver's side as well. Doesn't give me any advantages over sitting on the passenger side, but as you can see, accommodates 2 people sat in here. Down each side I've got these little storage hatches, and there's a variety of useful things in there. I've got a spanner roll, I've got an egg poacher in there, some rubbish bags, a small tyre inflator. In the next one, which is pretty much directly over the rear wheel, I've got a camo net in there, my tyre deflator, inflator, and a small one at the end, the adapter from the NATO tow-in plug to civvy plug, and another fire extinguisher. Moving round to the front, I've got another storage compartment, and in there I've got 2 of those awnings, one to fit on the rear and one to fit on the side. Swinging around, it's pretty much a repeat down the other side of the vehicle. So there we go, another storage. I've got an axe in there, look. I've got the MOD number plates, the original ones for the vehicle, first aid kit. In the centre one, oh, an angle grinder, you never know when one of those will come in useful. And a compartment there with a roller tape in it. This here is the base for the shower, so if I wanted to set the shower up here and I didn't want to get all leaves and crap on my feet, then I just put that base in. It's a fairly sturdy PVC base. It'll catch all the water, keep my feet from getting all the twigs and muck on them. And then looking up the side, I've got these soft storage pouches. They come from Camp Cover, and they're really, really useful because they've got these clear vision panels, so it's dead easy to see what's in there and you don't have to go rummaging around to find what you're looking for. So there are 2 of them. There's the large one and the slightly smaller one. Slightly smaller one's got Overlanding roof tenting essential. I've got my camp chair over there. I've got a screen that fits across the front seat so I can create a bit of privacy if I'm in the back without giving the game away by shuttering off the front windows. I've got a camo jacket up there because why not? I've got this flexi bungee up the top here. That's a handy place to my clothes when I'm in the bed. On the ceiling I've got a metal plate, a steel plate, allows me to mag mount some useful things such as eye bolt mountings for my cutlery when I'm cooking outside, and also lamps and interior lighting. These are pretty good. I like these ones. These come from Ridge Monkey. I can have a white light, no light, a red light, and a green light. Obviously the green and the red are less noticeable when you're camping out in places like this in the woodland and you don't want to draw attention to yourself. I've got 3 modes of sleep available to me inside here, as I mentioned earlier: single bed, double bed, and the third one is a hammock. I've got an eye bolt at the front and at the rear, and I can hang a hammock from there. Also in the back here I've got drawer storage. If I give that a tug, pull that out, that's my hammock inside of there. A couple of useful hunting knives. I've got my induction cooktop in there. I've got a slightly wider drawer, and I've got my favourite Lutu come seat come dining table in the back of there. Pots and pans and my front runner cutlery. So there it is, my Lutu. This is a toilet. You lift up the seat, trap a waste bag in there, put some of that absorbent powder in, close the doors on the vehicle, do your business in privacy, knot the bag and dispose of it with your general rubbish later on. And if you haven't used it for its primary function, it also makes a really useful dining table as well, or a temporary seat, whatever you want to use it for. Such a versatile piece of equipment, takes up very little storage space in the vehicle when it's collapsed. Absolutely brilliant. Now there's even more storage available. When I pull the bed platform back, I've got more storage underneath, look. So I've got a little sink, and that's my portable barbecue. Fits under there quite nicely. It'd be a shame to waste that space. And to turn it into a bed, I simply throw over, with a single bed platform in place. If I put a single inflatable mattress, my sleeping bag and my pillow at the far end there, then there's still plenty of room available on this side for other things when I'm travelling on my own. When I climb in, I can sit on the extended platform. There's room there for my feet. I can remove my footwear, stick it under there out of the way. Then if you imagine all my bedding in place, shoes are off, simple procedure then just to lay down and make myself comfortable for the night. So to create a double bed, I simply move my feet out of the way, look, undo the latch, slide the second platform out, fold that over, and there we go, double bed platform. Inflatable mattress on there and jobs are good. The extra storage space that I've got underneath there, I've got a hot water bottle. How about that? If the diesel heater was to fail, then I just need to boil up some water, and that'll keep me nice and toasty overnight. When you're done as a bed, you simply push the platform back and it locks in place. When I'm travelling, I deflate the mattress, roll it over, along with the sleeping bag and the cushions and things. Next I should talk about power in here. I've got an Anker F1500. It's possibly a little bit overkill, but there's absolutely no way that I'll run out of power with that beast in there. That gives me 240 volt. There's a step down, as I said in the first part of the video, that gives me 12 volt power for running things like the diesel heater. The orange cable that you see in there runs to this outlet at the back. In the bottom here I've also got found it's magnetic, so it'll mount up onto the top there, you see, and happens to be club colours as well, which is great. Obviously there's no shortage of ventilation with that big roof hatch. And while we're on the subject of ventilation, at the back here, the standard military ventilation is more than adequate. I mentioned that in the first part of the video as well. In terms of taking away stale air and condensation, then that does the job perfectly well. The cable that you see coming out of there is for the rear view camera. I could do with just tucking that up out of the way. And those two cables are for this small solar panel. When the vehicle's dormant, when it's not being used, it just trickle charges it and keeps the battery at 100% ready for the next trip. While we're out on the top here, you can see I've got this Kedar rail that I attach the awning to, and there's also a shorter one that runs along the back there, and that allows me to fit an awning over the rear doors. Something that you don't get in a standard Defender is this panoramic viewing position. Just how about that? And actually, pretty good place for a camp out this. So I think I'll be up here again at some point and have a night out in the woods. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If there's anything that you think I missed or you'd like more detail on, please leave a note in the comments. Thank you.